Welcome to another episode of Post Fades and Cheesesteaks. Today we're talking quarterbacks, and it's gonna get interesting. Let's take a look.
Next year, I don't think he's got that much left in him. And to be honest, I don't think he's going to make Tampa Bay suddenly a football juggernaut. But name value alone put him in the top 10. But I don't see it next year for me.
So this is where I stir the pot.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, here we go. Jesus, good. Here we
Tom
Matt
Brady.
Trubisky.
Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Okay,
correct.
But he is no longer a top 10 quarterback.
Listen, I put him in the top
Not
10.
in the top 10?
Nope.
I didn't want to put him in the top 10 either. I put him there on I thought I was bad at 10.
What?
I didn't want to. He doesn't have it anymore. Nothing last year showed me he had it. And
He's been going down and down. He's like, 43 now? Never seen him in a different offense than the Patriots offense and Bill Belichick. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah, he was in the Pro Bowl 2 years ago, and you don't have him in the top 10, so that makes me a little skeptical of how.
On name alone. On name
Tom Brady
alone.
could not even – he could be injured the entire year and would still get voted to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Who
That's
did he
why-
have to throw to last year?
Listen, his boy was there. Edelman was there the whole season. He didn't go anywhere.
That's the
Yeah,
one
and he
thing.
played hurt, and they did pretty well. They put up good numbers. Him and Edelman weren't the problem. They had nobody else.
If you think even the year before that, when they won the Super Bowl, Tom Brady was not the lead in that offense. They were running the ball all day. They were running with Sony Michel. They were running with James White. They were just running the ball. Belichick knows what he's doing. He lets everyone leave when they've got nothing left, and I don't think he made a mistake when letting Brady leave again.
I don't know. If you're gonna go into a season and say that there's 10 quarterbacks you'd rather have under center this year, I'm from New England, and I hate the Patriots more than any team there is, but my goodness, I mean, to have him under center in the fourth quarter and not to have him in the top 10, that hurts.
My thing is, like, he just Arians' system won't max really. It's not like, all right, Michael Thomas runs slants and catches balls. Godwin and Evans like to get downfield and go up and get it, and Arians loves to push him downfield. This guy, you could contribute. You could say that Arians is partially the reason that Andrew Luck retired early. The guy was getting murdered when he was the coordinator, or when he took over the team when Pagano had cancer. Then when he had Ben, when he had Palmer, when he had Winston, all the consistency is his quarterback consistently gets hit because they hold the ball to him, and he's just trying to throw it downfield every time. And I could not think of a system that doesn't fit Tom Brady in his old age worse than that.
Yeah, no, I agree that I agree in the notion that Arians is we got to risk it to get the biscuit. He's all deep balls, which is going to be a big compromise. But man, what Tom Brady also loves is his tight ends, and he's got 3 of them down there. The guy's got 3 tight ends, and he loves the tight ends. Boy, does he love them. I think he's going to find his ways to go into his office with Bruce and be like, Bruce, I need some more tight end seams. And guess what? If he's only getting a couple of those with Howard and Braid and Gronk, it's all the guy needs. It's all he's going to need.
Do I think they'll adjust? I think they'll meet in the middle. I'm curious to see where that middle is. Is it more Brady or is it more Arians? Because I think the Tampa Bay offense suits Arians' offense. The Buccaneers were 4th in points scored last year, and that was with their quarterback throwing 30 interceptions the entire year. I know Arians is smart, and you went and got Brady for a reason, and I understand if they got to the playoffs, I wouldn't want any quarterback besides Brady in those moments. But, man, he's going to get – if he runs the same offense Arians always runs, Brady is not going to make it to the playoffs.
I'll just say I've always defended – back when it was Brady and Manning playing, I always defended Brady as being the better quarterback because of his lack of weapons. Like, all throughout his early years, he really had – like, Deion Branch was his best receiver. Like – he always got it done. And if you look at the last few years, he's needed help. The Patriots always are trying to trade. They had that Josh Gordon experiment. I mean, they had Randy Moss for a little bit when Brady was still in his prime. I just feel like they were so flat in the playoffs this past year. Like, they just did not look like the normal Patriots. Brady didn't look like himself this year. I He's still like 11 or 12 in this top quarterback list, but I think at his age, you can see how he's slowly regressing. So,
my main thing is I don't see the Tampa Bay connection yet. We'll see where they meet and we'll see what happens. But I don't think it's the right offense for him. The 30 interceptions is ridiculous, and you could not pick two different quarterbacks than Winston and Brady. But I still think a quarterback like Winston would fit better in this system. But, I'm not going to kill the guy. He made my top 10. I'm not ludicrous like you. He made my top 10.
Now that I'm looking at my number 10, I feel like I'm gonna sound a little ridiculous.
Geez.
So, so number 10, I had Dak Prescott.
At 10?
Yeah.
Oh my!
I can
goodness.
live with it. I won't kill you. I can live with it.
So,
all right.
Obviously not a Cowboys. Hate the Cowboys. But you look at his, like, you can't, even though he has weapons and he has a great line and he has Ezekiel Elliott, you can't deny that the guy on the number standpoint gets it done. I mean, I saw this one stat. So him, Wentz, and Rodgers are the only quarterbacks in NFL history to average a touchdown at least every 20 attempts and an interception less than every 50 attempts in their career so far. Like, that's on pace for good stuff. I mean, he had almost 5K yards this year. I mean, I always will play that card. Like, I think Wentz is better than Prescott, but
of course
you can't deny, Prescott is a solid starting quarterback, and he would compete on almost every team, I feel like.
Oh, I'm gonna ruffle some feathers on my next pick. Then I can already tell you that. A little precursor for you.
Okay.
Sounds like no arguments. Nick, go right into number 9 then.
So number 9, I'm going to take the other side of that argument, and I'm going to put Carson Wentz at number 9.
Oh, boy.
And here's why.
Oh, boy.
Right. Carson Wentz, first of all, you homers, to slow it down, you Philly boys. Okay? Carson Wentz has been sold on potential year after year after year. I keep hearing about what he can be. Okay? I hear a lot about – and he had one season where he was great. He was almost on an MVP pace. Everyone was all happy about that. Guy's not reliable. I don't find him to be reliable. I will say it was impressive. He was throwing 4,000 yards without a 500-yard receiver. I'll give him that. But 32-24 record, questions about his leadership. I mean, you have a city who basically wanted him out after Nick Foles came in. I mean, I don't see any other.
I mean, Nick Foles won the first Super Bowl. Relax there a little bit. That's because he was fairy tale.
I think his train has always been people want him to be, and he could be. I think his ceiling is. Don't get me wrong. I think his ceiling is higher than the next two names that I'm going to bring up. However, what he has shown me on the field and where his actually been, I can't justify putting him over the next two people. I just can't in my heart. I like him. I want to like him. I think his potential is super high. He's an MVP possible quarterback, but I haven't seen enough on the field.
I was telling Tim how I had Wentz at 9, like made the list like a week ago. And I know his stats. Like I obviously follow him closely, but looking at his stats closer and closer, what he's been able to accomplish slowly kept moving him up. So, I mean, I can talk more about when I get to him, but I don't know. I hate the durability when people question that. He had such extreme injuries, and then the playoffs when he got Clowney targeted him in the head, the concussion shit. Like, it's hard to like when people said, "Oh yeah, he's unreliable." Like you can't say that from that hit. Like that has nothing to do with his physical health. That he literally got knocked out of the game. But
he's also was hurt twice in college. I mean, he's been hurt 4 of the last 6 seasons of his football. So,
I will say the leadership thing does concern me. Losing people in the locker room is never good for your morale and team growth and all that. And
I agree.
But he needs to find that consistency level where he's like, not overthrowing players, one game and then the next game he's, leading fourth quarter drives.
The one thing I don't understand is the leadership thing. Like, of course, like, listen, most of those players have an issue with Wentz, or if they do, it's because Nick Foles came and won a Super Bowl. He literally had a fairy tale. I'll name my firstborn after Nick Foles because of what he did. Carson, I still have all the faith in Carson Wentz. Think about, all right, Lamar Jackson was doing very well as a rookie. They went to the playoffs, and then halftime he didn't look good in the playoffs. And what were they calling for? They were calling for Joe Flacco. Does that not mean that they, don't want Lamar Jackson, or he's not the guy that we want to lead? It's just, Joe Flacco had the magic like Nick Foles did. They've seen the magic before, so they don't want to get rid of the magic because they haven't seen Wentz do it.
I think because Nick Foles' leadership was so unquestioned and he was so on it that people are holding Wentz to that same standard.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna leave it at this. I've never seen a place try to force. I'm sorry, I won't say never because I think Derek Carr has been trying to force to be a franchise quarterback, and I hate Derek Carr.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more on that one. Could not agree more.
That's blown my mind. But I think that we keep forcing this thing, and we want people to like Wentz and the ownership, and Laurie, and they always come out and they say all these glowing things about him. But players don't talk about him highly. Words matter. And if you look at the words that his teammates use about him versus the way they talked about Nick before they even won. I'm not talking about just the Super Bowl. I'm talking before they won. I'm talking the next season when he came in for the last couple games. People talked about Nick in a way I've never heard any Eagle talk about Wentz. And I'm sorry. I can't. If I'm going to start a team, intangibles matter. Intangibles matter.
Oh, fair enough. I'll leave Wentz alone because he does pop my list later on. But
yeah,
I think the biggest thing with him is the downfall is Nick Foles is a living legend. That holds him back a little bit. I don't think he's a bad leader. I think compared to Nick Foles, he's probably not everyone's preferred leader. But I'll get to my number 8 because it kind of – or my number 9.
Yeah, that's not skip, buddy.
My number 9, I went with Dak. I went with Prescott, actually.
Oh.
Dak's okay. Dak's – I got no issue with Dak, but my main thing is the guy – has 18 wins in the last 2 years. He's played behind arguably the best offensive line in football. His team went and traded to get him a number 1 wide receiver. He has, and in my opinion, I think is if he's not the best, he's the second best running back in football. He's never been asked to run an offense where he's just slinging it all day. And he still just doesn't make it happen. You could say all you want about Garrett. I get it. I don't think Garrett's a good coach either. But, Carson Wentz brought his crippled offense into the playoffs. Dak Prescott, with a number 1 wide receiver, best offensive lineman, and a top 3 running back, can't win more than 9 games. He's the other thing is with him, and this is my big thing with Dak, is I think the Cowboys are in trouble. They've waited too long on this. This is a mistake. The fact that Jared Goff signed a bigger contract than Carson Wentz, and they're all in the same draft class, and do you really think Jared Goff is a quarterback you want to just top 5 franchise quarterback, or do you think he went to the Super Bowl and then it was his time to get paid?
I think Dak top 10.
He's not my top 10. No spoilers there.
Not my top 10.
I think Dak has pointed himself in a great position where as long as he makes the playoffs, he's going to break the quarterback market until Mahomes does it again. I think he's a solid quarterback, but I think he's been given plenty, and he's done very minimum. For what I've seen other quarterbacks do, he's had so much and has done so little.
I'm just shocked that you essentially forced Tony Romo to retire because you wanted to make this guy your quarterback, and
I don't hate that.
And now they won't pay him.
Yeah, I
don't get it.
It's going to fall on themselves.
That was bad management. They paid everybody else. They assumed he was going to have – they weren't going to have a year where they had to pay him top dollar, and then he balled out last year. I mean, he almost threw for 5,000 yards. And I'll get to his numbers later and when he comes up on my thing.
I mean, but how rarely do you see a running back or a top receiver lead their team into the playoffs? You don't. You need a quarterback, and yet they paid everyone else but the quarterback. So I just don't get that. But
Listen, the other thing is, I know he has a lot of yards. Jameis Winston had a lot of yards too. But when you have a lot of yards and little wins, that's a problem for me. Because wins and
little
yards,
wins. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in the little wins. Remember we said that because it comes up.
Little wins. He's had 18 in the last 2 years. That's averaging 9 a year. That's not getting you to the playoffs. That's not doing anything.
All right, Tim, I'm going to educate you real quick. Tim, since we came into the league in 2016, he has the second most wins in the NFL, only behind Tom Brady. He's 40-24. Check the numbers. Better than Wentz.
How many playoff appearances is that?
How many playoff appearances?
Yeah.
2 of the 4 years. His rookie year and then the third year. And he played in the 3 games, unlike Wentz playing 1 quarter.
Okay, so if you want to look at it that way, Wentz, even though he's missed many games and Dak hasn't, he also brought his team to the playoffs 2 of the 4 years. The year he got hurt, they were already in the playoffs, and then last year he willed that injured, crippled, backed up practice squad team into the playoffs. beating Dak Prescott.
I will say that last game, well, I think it was second to last game, basically division on the line. Like you said, Wentz had no receivers. Miles Sanders gimping, and his line was – I think the line was mostly healthy. The defense was obviously hurt, no cornerbacks or anything. And what did the Cowboys bring to the table? Nothing. They took Amari Cooper out in the fourth quarter. Dak Prescott wasn't doing anything.
What could you possibly give Prescott that he doesn't have now? Granted, I don't think the Cowboys are going to be great this year either because their defense is not good. Their secondary is – they lost their best secondary player. Their secondary is trash, and their defensive line would have been great 8 years ago.
I think we've seen Prescott's peak already, I think. Whereas other players, they're still growing.
Carson Wentz had an offense similar to what Dak Prescott has had in his entire career, 1 year of his entire career. In 17, when he had his MVP level season. When he had a good offensive line and actual weapons that stayed healthy. Dak Prescott has had perfect – Elliott doesn't miss games. Cooper has been healthy since he's got there. The offensive line has been stud. I know Frederick missed last year, but he came back and was plenty fine this year before he retired. This guy, he's getting given plenty, and he has done very little.
I wouldn't say very little, but yeah, playoff-wise, it's been
averaging 9 wins the last 2 years. I know. Since he's been in the league, he's second most to Brady. I was also 4 years ago. I was a different person 4 years ago too. He's going on the wrong
4 years ago. It's his whole body of work over the last 4 years.
I'm looking at the last 2 years, and 9 wins per year is not good.
So that was your 9, Mr. Prescott.
Yeah.
So initially at 9, before like an hour ago, I had Kirk Cousins, and
Jesus,
and I swapped him out.
Oh, thank God.
Because I really like Matt Stafford, and I had to have him on this list.
Matt Stafford.
I like Stafford too. He's not my top 10 though, but I do like Stafford.
I think he's the most inflated statistics throwing to Calvin Johnson for so many years. We threw into triple coverage and just watched a monster go up and catch balls that were terrible throws, but he was just unguardable.
I agree. He's one of my favorite players of all time, Mr. Calvin Johnson. But before Matt Stafford got hurt this past year, he played in 8 games. If he would have played full 16 games on his current pace, he would have had over 5,000 passing yards. Like, the dude, he's a baller.
I hate that stat, but he didn't. Kyle Allen won his first 4 starts. He was on pace to be undefeated. What happened after that?
2011, 5,000 yards. Year after, 4,900. Year after, 4,600. 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. Almost 30 touchdowns every year. The dude's a baller. You can't deny that. And he doesn't always have the best help. They've never had a running back for him. Their line's mediocre. Defense is mediocre. And he has, every once in a while, have a really good receiver. I like Galladay. I think he'll be good for Stafford. I don't know what his contract's like, so I don't know how longer Stafford's going to be, with the Lions at this pace. I could see him doing like a Brady where his contract's kind of run out, goes to another team, or like a Phillip Rivers goes to another team.
I mean, I like Stafford, but he is a quarterback that puts up numbers and has nothing to show for it. The Lions are consistently a bottom 10 team, and he throws for 5,000 yards.
I just feel like they haven't supported, like ever since Calvin Johnson, even when they have Calvin Johnson, they didn't support that roster enough. So I don't know.
I've always looked at Matt Stafford as the guy who averages 28 points on a 25-win NBA team. Like when we thought Michael Carter-Williams was going to be the guy in Philadelphia when he wins Rookie of the Year.
R.I.P.
Like that's
to me,
that
is a good description. Yeah,
yeah,
I can get behind that one.
I just always have felt that way about Stafford. I feel like his stats are hollow. They're always behind, so he's chucking the ball in the fourth quarter while other quarterbacks are running the ball.
Yeah.
I will say I think he has great toughness. I think that video of him popping his shoulder out his rookie year and then still going back in and throwing that touchdown or the extra point, the 2 point, whatever the hell it was. I think that was unbelievable. I've seen that video, and that was amazing and tangible, but I think he has the most inflated statistics of any quarterback.
Yeah, I won't argue for not putting him in your top 10. I just have always kind of liked him. Always thought he was kind of in between like underrated versus like underappreciated. But I do understand the inflated stats. I agree with that as well.
I agree with the Michael Carter-Williams. I haven't heard that description for Stafford, but that's pretty on point.
Is he still playing in the NBA?
I think he's on the Magic, where all Sixers dumpster fires go to die.
Oh, my goodness.
Noel went there, too, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody ends up there at one point.
Yeah.
It's your last stop before you leave the league.
Nick, who are you feeling at 8?
So, for number 8, He's a guy that I've loved since college. He went to a school I almost went to. I followed his college career. I have a Snapchat with him. I met him at the draft.
Wow, this low. I'm
Big,
surprised by you.
big love for my boy Deshaun Watson.
Ooh.
Yeah,
okay,
I gotta
live with that. I
gotta go Watson. I'm gonna hit the positives, then we'll go negative. So I think of the Wentz, Prescott, Watson. I like Watson's intangibles the most. I've always thought the dude is just a winner, and I've loved just the way he plays. Just gonna go through some quick records that the dude holds. Like, he had a 5 pass. He most passing touchdowns in a single game by rookie quarterback with 5, which is like most people who've done that. First player in NFL history to pass for 400 yards, throw 4 touchdowns, and rush for 50 yards in a single game. First player in NFL history with multiple 5 passing touchdown games within his first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
First in NFL history with 4,000 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 500 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns in a single season. The dude is just – he's a guy who I could see winning an MVP someday, and it absolutely kills me that Bill O'Brien is now their general manager because I'm slowly watching that reality fade away after he threw away.
It's a ticking time bomb in there.
And that's a piece that I had to consider. But I think he's a highlight machine. But at the same time, I think he still has room to grow. I've seen a lot of moments where he hasn't shown up. In times have been disappointed. Now he has shown up in a lot of big moments. Played the Pats really well. Played the Chiefs really well until they came around and Pat Mahomes woke up in that game.
Yeah,
but
that was crazy.
He had a good first quarter.
I think he's ascending. 2 years ago, he was a Pro Bowl alternate. Last year, he was a Pro Bowl backup. I think he's on the upward trend. I think he would have continued on that trend if they kept D-Hop and got him more support. But I think he's going to have a little bit of a middling year because of what they have around him, and I'm not sure what the next step is for him.
I looked at Watson, and I moved him around a lot. I saw a lot of lists that had him 3 or 4, which I think is a little ridiculous.
I think he's so overrated. I don't think he's bad. People put him up, and he's top 5.
I agree. I mean, I have him a little higher, but I think his stats are a little misleading sometimes, and I think what you said, Tim, is people they're like, oh yeah, Deshaun Watson, one of the best, but what has he done like that? And people are like, he's one of the best. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not saying he's bad. He's just I've seen
top
5 quarterback. Why? I just relax a little bit. I don't think he's bad, but
I will say that he is the biggest robbed Heisman Trophy winner there's ever been. The guy was the quarterback of the all-decade team in college football, started every year and didn't win one Heisman. He beat Alabama 1 year.
That was a great game. That was probably one of the best college championship games I've seen in a while.
That was awesome.
Was that the one that went down to almost overtime?
That was Renfro caught that touchdown at the end of that pick move at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Mike Williams had that great catch that probably made him a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. Number 8, I know we mentioned him already. I'm going to go with the local boy. I went with Matt Ryan.
Okay.
Okay, Matt.
I'll give you a little shout out to my boy Mason, one of my boys from college, my old roommate. He was actually my roommate after that 28-3 debacle. And when I tell you, I've never seen someone's soul broken in half before. I remember coming in the house after that game and the door just being closed and all the lights being off and knocking on the door. I actually thought something might have gone wrong. Me, if that was the Eagles then that month, I would have burnt the house down. So I was grateful for him for that. But he's been consistent all the time. If he won that Super Bowl, if he managed to win that Super Bowl, he would be top 5 on everyone's list without even thinking. But the Super Bowl kills him because it was such an embarrassment. It almost overshadows the fact that the guy won an MVP that year is because everyone knows how it ended. One of the biggest arguments I hate when it comes to quarterbacks, one that isn't in my top 10 is everyone that says Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't know about that a lot. I don't see it. I don't think he's ever been. He's
like I think Donovan McNabb territory where you could honestly.
4 years ago, I had him top 10. I think his numbers are great, but not anymore.
So here, just looking. All right, if you look at their career average, Ryan 12 years and Rivers 14 years. If you don't count the 2 years that Rivers sat behind Breeze, they are Ryan 27 touchdowns, 4,200 yards, 65 completion percentage. Rivers, 28 touchdowns, 4,200 yards, 64 completion percentage. Playoff record, Ryan's 4-6, Philip Rivers is 5-6. They're very similar in their careers, but Matt Ryan's going to pad those stats, and I expect him to succeed Philip Rivers in all those numbers. Plus, you factor in he's going to have that MVP, and he will have a Super Bowl appearance. I don't see how if you put Rivers in the Hall of Fame, Matt Ryan does not get in the Hall of Fame. I think he's just been a consistent quarterback that without that Super Bowl is killing him. Without that Super Bowl, he would be – if he had it, he'd be top 5 on everyone's list. He's been just the consistent, never – doesn't miss games. He always goes out there. He's had some horrific defenses and some horrible offensive lines. Last year, he led the league in sacks, which at a quarterback, in their 12th season is not something you want to see.
Yeah.
But, he still went out there and, they didn't have a great year, but he still went out there, threw for almost 4,500 yards, 26 touchdowns, and still led the league in sacks. I think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks. I think he's honestly, if I was putting a Hall of Famer, I'd put him in well before Philip Rivers. I think that he succeeded Philip Rivers in that kind of quality, and if he had that Super Bowl, I think he'd be on that Aaron Rodgers, top 5 breezy echelon of these generational quarterbacks.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I also had Matt Ryan at number 8.
It took us 5 episodes. But suddenly you're starting to pick up and take notes. I'm proud of that.
I'll just say, I think he's on the weird verge of like a guy who's done a lot but doesn't have a lot to show for it. So I would kind of agree he is still a little underrated because he's kind of looked at like the second of like Tom Brady, Breeze. They're all looked at before him and even Rodgers before Matt Ryan's even talked about. I mean, but he's got a 94.6 career passer rating. Like that's
he's good. I'm telling you, what kills him though is the Super Bowl, the 23. Because you know what, it diminishes his MVP too. That's so embarrassing of a loss.
And it's funny because a lot of people were like, "Yeah, but that's on the defense." But at the same time, you're like, "Okay, but why couldn't the offense? Why couldn't the offense score a point in 2 quarters?"
I think it hurts him. If he had even lost the Super Bowl in like a respectable fashion, not in some horrific way, different conversation. Because it really hurts. That was his best season, and the only thing people remember of it is the blunder that was the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing he does throw, he throws over about 12 interceptions, throughout his career per season. But, I mean, his touchdowns are always like high 20s, mid-20s. And his yardage is always, he's only had 1 year. Let's see. Well, he had his first 3 years were like 3,000 yards. And then ever since 2011, he's had at least 4,100 yards.
He's been the source of consistency. He's like, that's why I mentioned
the A-boy too.
They're both consistent, but when you're talking about hires of highs, Brian's hires are higher than Philip Rivers. And just if you factor in, I know Matt Ryan's played with Julio Jones his entire career, but Philip Rivers got LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates, and Keenan Allen all in their prime, and he couldn't do anything with it.
Nick, how big is Boston College? Because were you there when he was playing for them?
So BC is really big in the private school circuit of Massachusetts. It's kind of like private school secondary for prep school kids. So
fair enough.
Not a fan. I hated it because I hated the private schools. So.
No, that would make sense. I think Matt Ryan went to Melbourne Prep, right, or something like that.
He went to Penn Charter.
Penn Charter.
That's what it was. Yeah. Okay. What do we have next? 7?
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
7. So 7 is where Dak falls in my Dak, Watson, Wentz.
Okay. I agree with that trio. That's fine.
I won't hate it.
Yeah.
But I want to hear this argument.
Yeah. So I'll tell you that originally Wentz was 7, and then Dak, and then Watson, and this has moved around many times. Just different things I've looked at. But I try to take it from the beginning because Wentz and Dak came in the same draft, and Watson came a year later, so he's got a little bit less to show. So I try to take Wentz and Dak and put them head to head. Going into the draft, Wentz is the guy coming in to save the franchise, to take him at number 2. This guy who played D1A in North Dakota State, and Dak is just this. Let's take a flyer on this guy out of Mississippi State. Goes late in the 3rd round. They don't trade up to get Paxton Lynch, which I wish they did because terrible mistake by the Broncos, which the Cowboys could have saved us from that.
Would have made me so happy.
Paxton Lynch. What a blunder.
So he comes in. He's the third/fourth quarterback on their depth chart going to the season. He ends up starting week 1 after multiple injuries happened to every other quarterback. He wins Rookie of the Year that year. He leads them to the playoffs, and he's 1-2 in the playoffs. But that 2016 game, he lose to Green Bay. He throws for 302 yards, 103.2 passer rating, 3 touchdowns, and an interception.
Was that the Dez Bryant drop? Was that game? Oh, Nick, we lost you.
I don't even hate Dak's number. Like last year, he had 30 touchdowns and 4,900 yards. But we talked about Stafford's hollow stats. This guy, somehow Carson Wentz and Deion Burnett and Josh Perkins somehow got to the playoffs over Dak. And I can't give him this much love when he's had this stacked offense, and I haven't seen anything from him.
Is Nick on your screen? He's frozen on mine.
Oh, he's frozen on mine.
Okay. Nick's coming back. Oh, we got 4. Are we going to have frozen Nick in here too? We have 2 Nicks. Should I kick Nick 1 out of the
Yeah.
Which one? I don't know which one to kick.
It's like when you get in an argument, and you're like, oh, I got backup now. I got someone on my side. You got another person staring at you. And you're making your point.
So me and Tim were kind of I was saying to him how I feel like if not to always do Dak and Wentz comparison, but if you take Wentz and put him in the Cowboys offense and take Dak and put him in the Eagles offense, I think Dak would struggle, whereas Carson would thrive, in my opinion.
All right. Well, you know what? I hear you. Again, I think the ceiling for Carson is higher, but I think when I look at it, I think about their rookie years. Dak has a significantly superior year, beats him the first game head to head. Comes in. He's not supposed to be the guy. He's just supposed to be holding the clipboard that year. All of a sudden, game 1, they're like, dude, get out there. And, it's not Wentz where they're taking number 2, who he knows for 5 months before the season. He's the guy. He comes in, they make it to the playoffs. He has a great game. His passer rating is 5. His career passer rating is 97 when Wentz is only a 92. He's got 21 rushing touchdowns and over 12 rushing yards. I don't know if you realize that. The guy has a ton of total touchdowns. Mm-hmm. His completion percentage is 2 points higher. He's got 15 game-winning drives. 15, most in the NFL in the last 4 years. And 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. So, I mean, I get it that I want Wentz to be better than Dak because I like him more than Dak. Mm-hmm. But I think there's also this bias of you can't go off who you like. You got to go off what they've produced. And while I think the ceiling is higher for Wentz, what has been produced has been higher from Dak.
I think at the same time, I like Dak's leadership. I like his personality. I think he's a good fit for a quarterback. But I think at the same time, if you're going to talk about some of the other players we mentioned and like stat inflation, I feel like that's a lot of the same for Prescott. Like a lot of his stats are bumped up. But like agree. Besides, like what has he done in the playoffs? Like what has he done in the regular? They always have an easy schedule. Like everyone was writing the Cowboys in the Super Bowl this year because they were 3-0 after beating like 3 straight teams that had like a combined 1 win.
Dak has never had a bad team. The offense line was there before he got there. I could be wrong, but I believe Ezekiel Elliott was the same draft class as him.
They are. They're both rookies same year.
Yeah, so he came in. He had a stud running back immediately. I think Elliott led the league in rushing his rookie year. A great offensive line. They didn't have the outside weapons yet because Cooper wasn't on the team yet, but that was probably the worst weapons he's had. Carson had 1 year of comparable weapons around him or in an offense, and he almost had an MVP year if he could have just stayed healthy. And we'll get to him later, but I still think he should have won that MVP even with 13 wins. But
who won the MVP that year? Who was it? Brady?
Brady. Yeah. It was one of those,
I feel like the argument that you're making is the same argument I always try to people hear about making. If Rodgers was on the Patriots, then he would be the GOAT. And I hate this what ifs. Like I want to see. I don't care who's producing with what you have.
Fair enough.
Produced.
Okay, I mean that's a fair argument, but you could also look. Prescott has never had a season like Wentz did in 2017, and even last year, Wentz got that bumbling group of injured practice squad guys to the playoffs where Dak couldn't get his $20 million wide receiver, top 5 running back and offensive line to the playoffs.
I'm sure, like on the outside, people who aren't, like fans of the Eagles hate that argument. Like, oh, they had no receivers. Like, work with you have Ertz, one of the top tight ends. You have Miles Sanders, an upcoming running back star. But it's just I feel like you could go either way. I think Dak and Wentz are going to be in the same conversation for most of their careers. It'll just be interesting to see who takes the next step. I think whenever one of them gets deep enough in the playoffs or maybe another Super Bowl, whether it's an appearance or a win, I think that'll be able to separate them from one another.
Dakota, do you know what Dak's full name is? It's Rain Dakota Prescott.
Right, yeah, his middle name is Dakota, so he's a fake.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
go get him. Get him, the Council of Dakotas.
All right, so that was 7. Tim, who do you have at 7?
7, another guy just like Nick. I think everyone else values him high. I'm not saying bad. I just think he's overvalued and like overrated. Is Deshaun Watson. I have him at 7.
Okay.
Watson, you're right. That I just like I don't think Brady's gonna have a great year. I don't think Watson's gonna have a great year. He's gonna miss Hopkins. Hopkins was 4th in the NFL last year with 150 targets. That is not going to be replaced. You're going to replace it with what? Will Fuller, who can't stay healthy? My main thing with him is he takes too many sacks. I know last year or 2 years ago, he led the league with 62, which is just astronomical. But they also had a horrific offensive line. And they went and traded away their entire franchise's draft pick rights to go get Laramie Tunsil. And, mild improvement. He still had 44 sacks last year, and some of those times were him holding on to that ball too long. Like, I see him as the college player he was. Like, he made these crazy plays where he scrambled and got out of the way and made magic happen, which he still does. But I think he relies on it too much. I think in the NFL he doesn't realize that they're quicker, faster, and stronger. They're going to get him. And when he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins to throw to whenever he wants to, I think he's really going to struggle. I think he's still got great potential. I think he's going to get better. Just right now, I don't see it. I don't see him take over a game. That playoff game was pretty bad. We talked about Matt Ryan, the ball in that Super Bowl and not scoring any points. You could say whatever you want about the Texans defense letting Mahomes score rapidly, but I think we all expected that to happen. We didn't expect Watson to just suddenly stop scoring, after he put up the 24 points or whatever he did. I think he's good. I just think that people have him established as like a top 5 quarterback already when I haven't seen it. And he just lost his number 1 wide receiver. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, Tim, I think we're having a breakthrough here because at number 7, I also had Deshaun Watson.
Oh, you know what? It makes me feel good. This is like one of those proud teacher moments when they see that like degenerate child graduate from high school. This is me with you. I'm so happy you're coming around.
God. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what Nick said is how I feel about Watson. It's just like came out as like the hot quarterback, and then he just like had some things around him. He had a healthy Miller at running back. He had good receivers, a great receiver in Hopkins, and then he had Fuller, who hasn't been able to stay healthy enough to stay on the field. But I just feel like that line is doing him no favors. He's running for his life all the time.
Well, I mean, I agree, but they went and they gave up a lot.
Tunsil, yeah, who was
and
his
arguably is the best
agent.
left tackle in football. I can't fault them there. I do agree with you. Their offensive line was horrific, but they improved it, and he's still got these high sack numbers. I think he holds on the ball too long. But one interesting point I do want to mention, since we're talking about Watson and Prescott, I think this is where the Cowboys are going to shoot themselves. Obviously, we expect Mahomes to break the quarterback, at market. Whatever he wants, they're just going to give it to him. Mm-hmm. And similar to what Goff did with Wentz, is Wentz signed first, and then Goff got more money. Do I think Goff should have got more money? No, but what were you going to do? You had to.
Right.
I think now that they traded away DeAndre Hopkins, I think an extension for Watson's is coming very soon. And when Watson signs, that means Dak will have the leverage to ask for more money than Watson got. And I would rather tie my boat down to Watson than I would Dak, even though I did give him a little, negative, rating, and criticize him a little bit. But I see more potential in Watson than I do Prescott. And I think that Bill O'Brien got rid of Hopkins because he wants to get the Watson deal done right away. And I think he's going to sign for record money. And I think Dak's going to go to Jerry and be like, this is what they gave them. You're going to give me more than that. Or you're going to wait till Mahomes signs, and then we'll talk again.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I think that the problem with the Dak Prescott money thing is they signed everybody else before they signed him, and everybody knows that the quarterback is going to eat up the biggest chunk. The quarterbacks, they make the most money. He should have got that done ahead of time, but Jerry gambled that Dak wasn't going to have a good year, so he could come to the table and offer him $25 million. instead of the 30+, and it blew up in his face.
Oh, I think it was so. When they signed Cooper to that big money, I was like, oh boy, that's not. After you sign Zeke and then you sign Cooper, and that offense line's already signed. He got lucky that they lost an All-Pro center, but I think he got lucky that Frederick retired because that's a lot of money they invested on that offense that wasn't named quarterback.
And DeMarcus Lawrence got big money too.
Yeah, Jalen Smith. He's just giving away money to everyone. And you know what? He was banking on them winning last year, and he's putting all the marbles in winning this year because if they don't, he's going to have to sign them, and then they're going to be in trouble. Especially, if the cap goes down from all this Corona stuff, they're in so much trouble. I think the race right now is between Bill O'Brien and Jerry Jones, and I'll never say this, but I think Bill O'Brien's in a little smarter situation. I wouldn't have traded away DeAndre Hopkins to sign Deshaun Watson, but Then again, when Laremy Tunsil breaks the offensive tackle market and representing himself as his own agent, then what are you going to do?
I mean, the only problem with the whole Hopkins thing that I always go back to is we don't really know what was going on. Like, there's a chance that Hopkins was going to hold out the whole season if he didn't get a new contract. Like, we don't know anything.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I get that, but
so I feel like O'Brien was.
What did they get? A fourth and a second and David Johnson? What?
But O'Brien's always been a no bullshit guy. So if he wants to get this over and done with, he probably was like, I'll take whoever.
I see what you're saying, and I would have agreed with you up until the Stephon Diggs trade. The Bills traded like 4 picks, one of the first round, to a guy that called his quarterback out in the middle of the season and was demanding a trade. You're going to tell me that they had leverage? Diggs was demanding a trade in the middle of the season. Hopkins didn't keep up once.
Well, now they have David Johnson and Randall Cobb, and who they got somebody else. I'm blanking on his name.
Brandon Cook.
Brandon Cooks, yes.
He's like a tier 2B player who's trying to be a tier 2A player. He's always
I agree with that.
He's got like the potential to be not elite, but he has the potential to be a good wide receiver one, but he's never really shown that.
Well, here's the crazy thing. Brandon Cooks got traded twice for a first-round pick. DeAndre Hopkins didn't even get a first-round pick.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless the Texans are overvaluing David Johnson, who had an incredible rookie year and then since has been a gimp.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
So, so we and Tim both had Watson. Yeah, I mean, his rushing's good too. I mean, he gets around 500 rushing yards compared with his – a year compared with about 4,000.
I think he'll be fine.
He's got, you surround him with weapons and he'll be a good, really good quarterback.
I watch
we'll
him.
See what
I
happens.
still see too much Clemson Deshaun Watson, which works every once in a while. But in the NFL, they can get you.
In the playoffs against the Bills, where he got smacked, spun around. That was one of the craziest plays I've ever watched.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The guy's amazing, and he makes those plays. But you can't rely on them consistently. That's why he gets sacked so many times. Though their line is terrible, but they've improved it a lot. I still think he holds on and tries to make those crazy plays he's been known to make.
Yeah, well, you got to think about it. He's made those plays his whole life. I mean, he breaks every Georgia record. He goes to Clemson. He's the all-decade college football player. And then he goes to Houston. And who does he have to learn from? Freaking Bill O'Brien. That's the guy.
Don't get me wrong. I agree. I think Wentz had the same problem. I think Wentz, his 2017, he was making those plays. And now you have a heart attack if you see him do this because you don't want to get him hurt.
Yeah. It's a shame. Bill O'Brien was such a great coach with the Patriots and then rebuilt Penn State, basically. And then
he's a bad coach. He's a horrible GM.
All right, moving on. Nick, who you got for number 6?
So, again, I have another grouping of 3 similar guys. Came into the league roughly. They're of rough similar age. Not the same drafts, but rough similar age. This one, I think he's taken the most step backs of the 3. However, I think his fourth quarter ability, and obviously the GOAT, Tom Brady, I put up number 6. I think that he has had, he put up 4,000 yards last year, I think, with one of the worst receiving cores I've ever seen. It was comparable to the Eagles' terrible receiving core. It was pretty bad.
He still had his boy, though. His boy Edelman was still out there.
He did have Edelman, but I will tell you, I had Edelman fantasy, and Edelman played, I think, 85% of the year with some pretty major injuries. But Edelman, he still went over 1,000 yards. He got his thing, but he never had a downfield threat. He never had any type of consistency.
That first-round receiver never really played, did he?
No, N'Keal Harry, just wasn't what they thought. But I still will tell you that if you give me I don't care who the team is, I don't care what the roster is if you give me Brady in the fourth quarter and I need a drive, like I don't want anybody else with the ball. And I just think that with his opportunity this year, with the weapons around him, a team such heavy tight ends, his relationship with Gronk, you got Howard, you got Brait, you got Godwin, you got Mike Evans. I mean, if they can get another running back in this mix, they might be the best offense in football this year. And I think he can put up great numbers. I think he's going to have a great year.
I mean, I won't. Brady, you could put wherever you want. I mean, you could just put him off name alone.
You could put him at 1, and you'd find few arguments.
Well, relax. I'd take 2 from down. I'm not as high on him on the Buccaneers as I think everyone else is.
Yeah, I'm and
that's my main thing. But I can't kill you wherever you put him. To be fair, like just the name Tom Brady would put him in the top 5.
I think if this was last year going into 2019 season, I probably would have Tom Brady in my top 10. But I've seen a consistent decline year after year, and I mean I get it. This is probably not probably besides like having Randy Moss and Gronk. This is, I would say, his best set of weapons he's ever had in his entire career.
It's a new system, though. It's not McDaniels calling the plays anymore. So
and he's different. Not – and Brady is very much and I don't want to use the word game manager because that's not what he is. He's so much more than that. But he's very much a check – like reads defense in like a second, gets rid of the ball quick. And like Tim said, I don't know if that's really in Arians' philosophy. Like he wants to kind of spread it really deep. And
he's the last coach that likes to do that. He does not dump off anything.
So we'll see.
Throw 50 yards downfield as a check down.
I don't think it's fair to say Brady's not going to be successful just because of the system he's in.
Listen, Nick's right though, because even if they got to the playoffs, you'd want Tom Brady, or in the fourth quarter you want Tom Brady. I just think that, in the system, I know he's got the weapons. I just think that in the system, it doesn't match him as well. I know he's got the tight ends, but if you look at the best players on that offense, it's Godwin and Evans.
I think if you were telling me game on the line, you have a handful of quarterbacks to choose from, or you have one playoff game, who you put in a quarterback, like if you would say Brady, yeah, I agree with that 100%. But if you're saying Brady for 16 games, I just can't vibe with that anymore. I don't think he's elite like that anymore.
Yeah. I think you're going to see it this year. I mean, I see them as – I think the tough part is they play in a great division, but I think you're going to see a very – I think that people forget about his days with Randy Moss when he was only throwing bombs. Like, people forget that him and Randy Moss had 23 touchdowns together.
That was 13 years ago. No wonder we forgot about it.
No, but he's not incapable of doing it. He hasn't had an X receiver like that. He hasn't had people to do that. His guys have been short white dudes who run slants and curls, and that's what he's had.
But I'm telling you, that's what he likes, though. Like, don't get me wrong, Philip Dorsett could run down the field. N'Keal Harry could run down the field. I think he likes those Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, James White kind of players. You go back to let's look at Arians. Last year, Winston got 47 sacks, fourth most. His last year with the Cardinals, Palmer got sacked 52 times and led the league. And he also had to start Guybert and Stanton because they both got hurt. The guy wants his quarterbacks to hold the ball and chuck it downfield, and Brady has not done that since Randy Moss, but that was a Hall of Fame wide receiver he had that broke that chain. I don't see a 43-year-old Brady suddenly chucking it downfield or holding the ball long enough. There's a reason he's playing while he's 43, and it wasn't because he was holding the ball down that long. You look at last year. Winston was second in the league with yards per completion with 13.4. Tom Brady was 23rd at 10.9. And I know, different offense. But even if you look at the attempt, Brady was even lower than that. He was 28th with 6.6 yards. Winston was 5 with 8.2. It's different offenses.
So Nick, just one question, and then we'll enough bashing the GOAT. If the Broncos didn't have Drew Lock and they were going to sign a quarterback for a 1-year contract, and all these players were free agents, so you had Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, and Tom Brady. Which one of those are you going to sign
for 1 year?
For 1 year.
I think that for the Broncos specifically, you're going to have to win some big games in order to get there. You got to play the Chiefs twice. You got to play the Chargers twice. I want Brady. The guy wins big games. The guy wins big games.
Listen, I can't argue there.
I'm not going to argue with that.
I can't argue putting Brady anywhere in this list.
You passed the test. I was hoping you would fumble.
Although your boy Drew Lock, I like Drew Lock this year.
He's got weapons.
I liked him last year. I wish they played him the entire year. I think just let him rip it.
Yeah, Nick and I were video chatting during the draft, and he we were talking about, he's like, I just want Judy. I just want Judy. I just want Judy.
Great.
The Bronco, he fell right into their lap, and I was like, son of a bitch.
The handler pick was – I think I actually like the handler pick better. I thought that was great value to scoop him up after you get Judy, which is – plus you're bringing back Fant and Cortland Sutton and stud wide receiver. I like Locke a lot this year.
Tim, number 6.
All right, so, my homer, I had the boy Carson Wentz at 6.
Tim, we're going to have a problem. I had Carson Wentz at number 6.
I'm proud of you. I'm glad that I get to go first every time. You kept stealing my thunder every time.
Oh, boy.
Last year, the whole offense fell apart around him, and he willed that team to the playoffs, which I honestly think says more than Dak Prescott's, 4,900 yards and 30 touchdowns or whatever with a stacked offense. The year before that, I could almost throw that away. I remember being at that Buccaneers game in week 3 when Fitzmagic went off and beat us. I think that they rushed Wentz back, still hurt in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to the home game right off the Super Bowl season when they revealed the banner at the stadium, and Nick Foles played like shit until the fourth quarter.
I was in the Buccaneers game. He looked awful. And if it wasn't for the fact that
it was against the Falcons, but it was.
Yeah, but if they didn't win the Super Bowl the year before, people would be going nuts. But I think they rushed Wentz back because they realized that they were in trouble. And Foles was not doing the magic he was before. If you throw that year away, then you have last year. Numbers weren't great, but his team fell apart, and he still got to the playoffs. You have the MVP year, which, that year went to Brady. But if you look at his stats, Carson Wentz had 33 touchdowns, Brady had 32, and Brady played 3 more games. Carson Wentz led the league in quarterback rating that year. Obviously, Brady had more yards than him, but he also played 3 more games than him. You could have given him the MVP off of 13 games. He had the number 1 seed locked up, and he was the runaway best offensive player in the league.
Even still, if he had won MVP and then the past 2 seasons have been what they've been, I mean, you look at how many quarterbacks have won MVP once and then kind of disappeared or kind of started to deteriorate. Like Cam Newton, for example, had a fantastic MVP.
Matt Ryan, for example.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. Like it goes on and gone. So
yeah, but this guy won that would have been an MVP in his second year in the league.
Look, every year we go into the season and thinking this is going to be that one year where he really separates himself. And I feel like it could be this year again. But I will say this past season,
I think he already did it. I think he's already this is the reason he's not in the top 5. Everyone in my top 5 has either done it more than once, have been consistent and done it, or they've had a better season last year. Carson Wentz hasn't done it consistently, but you can't kill the guy. Last year his team fell apart. The year before that he was hurt. He had an MVP year and the year before that was a rookie year. I don't really put much stock in the rookie.
Do you know what he did? You know what he did last year though? He missed a lot of receivers by a lot. He underthrew and overthrew.
I agree.
So for every great throw, that sideline throw to Miles Sanders, you're like, how did that ball get through to the end zone? There's 4 passes that are like, dude, what was that?
In pass Miles Sanders 10 yards over his head.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to the Bears game. Like, I saw that guy underthrow a screen, overthrow a screen, overthrow a guy over the middle. Like,
I agree.
I think that we always base him on the trajectory of second-year MVP 2017, and we try to project he's going to continue. And I'm not sold on that wasn't just the best season he's ever going to have.
Right. I think it's unfair to attach him to that too. But I really do agree with you, Nick. And that's why I didn't push him up farther in this list, because I've had worries about certain things he does. And especially at the midpoint of that Eagles season where it looked like the playoffs weren't going to be a possibility, I was calling for him to get benched solely because I felt like he was trying to do too much. It felt like he was trying to win the game all by himself. And I mean, I understand what he was going through at that time. There was a lot of bullshit coming out about his leadership. A lot of players were getting hurt. The line was struggling a little bit, surprisingly. And that was before Miles Sanders started breaking out. And he was playing really bad the first 2 quarters of one game. I can't remember which one it was.
See, my thing with Carson Wentz is, and the main thing I held back on what Nick said and I agree with, is I haven't seen it consistency. He's so – and that's a lot to do with injuries. But if you factor in – find me a quarterback that has dealt with more adversity or more roadblocks in his career. The guy has been injured multiple times, significant injuries. His backup quarterback went on to win the Super Bowl. His teammates are going anonymously, ripping him apart left, right, and center. It's just those are things that no other quarterback has to deal with. Aaron Rodgers hasn't won a Super Bowl in 10 years, but everyone praises the ground he walks on. regardless if he's good or bad or, indifferent, he calls out his coaches, his coordinators.
Yeah.
I remember Tom Brady saying that his offense was completely disappointing. Everyone had a horrible game after they beat the Eagles in the Link last year. He's calling out his own offensive players, but no one, there's no question his leadership. I understand they're different players, but you see what I'm saying.
I will say I've been losing the will to argue against people that Wentz is top 5. But like I said, like Nick said, he still has not attained that ceiling yet. And like the great Michael Jordan once said, the ceiling is the roof. So we'll see what happens with him. But I mean, we already touched on the whole, first quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards and not have a single receiver over 500. Yeah, ridiculous. But you have to do what you got to do to win games. But I think one that I like more is he is the first quarterback in NFL history to throw 20 or more touchdowns and 7 or few interceptions in 3 straight seasons. But only Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson have done it twice. So pretty good company to do it 3 years.
This is the Colin Coward stat I see.
So, did he say that?
Put him in your works cited next time. I understand the haters because he hasn't done it consistently, and that's why he's not in my top 5. But you throw away what would have been the 18th season or whatever the double doink year was. If you throw away that year where the guy where he's coming off a torn ACL and he was rushed back and then fractured his spine. If you throw that year away, his career looks pretty solid, and I get it,
Right, but you can make that argument for any quarterback that had a bad
year. No, I understand, but I can't kill the guy. Literally what I saw last year was amazing. He took a team that should have never even come close to the playoffs and brought them to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he can be amazing and he can be mediocre. That's the bottom line with Carson. So
I mean, and I also don't put too much stock in him bringing in the playoffs last year. They played in the worst division in football. I mean, Dak was in that division. I get it. I get it. And I still agree that I think his ceiling is higher than Watson and Dak. I think it is. I think that he has the potential to get back there. But before I give him and anoint him the crown, I want to see it. And I've seen too many things with him that bother me. And I think where there's whispers, there's conversations. And I just don't think that he is the leader. I want more leadership. And I've heard players talk about him in interviews in ways that you don't hear people talk about. I mean, Eli Manning gets talked about by his teammates better. And I mean, Eli, have you looked at that dude? People talk about him better than Wentz's teammates talk about him.
Yeah.
I would be curious to see what the reception of his leadership would have been if his backup quarterback didn't go win a Super Bowl. I think that hurts him, not because it's something against him. It's just they saw a leader that they liked better than him. And I think that you compare him to Foles, they liked the leadership he had better. And I agree with what you're saying. I think it's consistency, but you know what? He had that, what were they, down in Houston, and he was out there, working out with the wide receivers, got his rookie guys up there, and that's what you want to see. I'm not in the locker room, but from whatever, I think everything I've seen, I'm not disappointed with his leadership.
I'll say one last point about Wentz is that I don't think he's overrated. I think even though he was taken second overall, I think for what we knew about him coming out of North Dakota State?
Yep.
I think he's completely he's reached that level of what we think he's capable of. So I don't think he's a bust, obviously. I don't think he's underperformed, but I think I would like to see him finally take that step. I would say he is a high-level quarterback. I'm not ready to say he's an elite quarterback yet.
That's fair.
Before we move on, I need to fix my lighting here because it's dark.
It's very dark.
Yeah.
I thought you were setting the mood for us. You know what? I was like, you know what? I know for sure that Brady, Wentz, and Prescott were going to be the most debated quarterbacks. And I was curious to see where we had them.
Yeah.
I knew those three were going to be the ones that we argued the most about.
I move them around a lot. I moved the three of them around. And it's funny because Brady and Wentz, I had both higher in their groupings. And then when I really kind of started looking into numbers and just try to take myself out of the fan perspective and try to be more of a GM seat.
Yeah.
Just look at, or being their agent, how am I going to come to the table and make this pitch? I had to move both of them down. The fan in me likes them more in their groupings, but the GM and me didn't have it.
We're talking about the Packers being idiots for drafting Jordan Love. And Rodgers has been in the league. He's 35 now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. But this is actually a perfect segue into my next guy. We're ready to go.
Interesting. Okay. I think we have similar thinking here actually on 5 then.
Am I ready to go, Dakota?
Uh-huh.
All right. So number 5, I think the second most pissed off person on draft night was Carson Wentz after Jalen Hurts got drafted. But I think the number 1 most pissed off person was Aaron Rodgers. And
that was my number 5.
I gotta say,
I couldn't agree more.
I have him in a grouping with the next guy and Brady. He's more accurate. He's got a better arm than Brady, so I had to give him the edge there. He's a couple years younger, so he's lost less of a step. I think if you compare them both at 37, I'd probably go Brady. But if I'm considering 37-year-old Rodgers with 43-year-old Brady, I'm gonna go 37-year-old Rodgers.
Yeah.
But I think the stat that came out after the draft that really blew my mind is the guy's only thrown 1 touchdown to a first-round pick, and it was Mercedes Lewis. Yeah. That was it. A tight end. He's never had a first-round wide receiver. I want to talk about a team. There was I don't know I think it was 37 wide receivers were drafted, and the Packers didn't take a single one in this draft. It was supposed to be as heralded as this
unexcusable.
Top wide receiver
that was
draft.
So dumb.
And then the 2 positions, if you're the Packers, you have to feel the best about is Rodgers and Aaron Jones, and you go quarterback round 1 and running back round 2.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it. I will say though, after all this positive stuff about Rodgers, the people who try to make the argument that Rodgers would have 6 rings if he played in New England, I think is the biggest bullshit. And that's why I hate. And that's why I hate these arguments. Like, put this guy on this team. Like when you try to do with Wentz and Prescott, it's not plug and play. There's chemistry things that come in. There's intangible things that come in. It doesn't just swap out like that. And that's why I push back on put Carson on Dallas and put Dak in Philly. And that's the reason for me and Rodgers Brady is the reason why I will never entertain that conversation, because I can't see Rodgers with 6 rings in New England with a cast that Brady's had.
Like, at least, the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, but they also did draft 3 wide receivers and signed another one or traded for another one in the same draft. So Carson couldn't have been that mad. But no, I agree. I couldn't even understand why they didn't draft a wide receiver. I don't understand why they continue to ignore it. I know Devontae Adams is awesome. He's an elite wide receiver, but he's had injury problems, and to not back that up is just unexcusable. They keep rolling out this cast of just support system wide receivers. It's just like the Saints, but they can get away with it because the Saints have Kamara and Jared Cook, and they make efforts to go get. They even tried to work out Antonio Brown. The Packers go out of their way to avoid bringing in more wide receivers. But I mean, Rodgers, he's just I feel comfortable in saying he's the most accurate quarterback in the league. I was looking at his numbers, and in the last 2 years, he's had 1,166 attempts, and he's thrown 6 interceptions in the last 2 years.
Wow.
Last year, Russell Wilson had 516 attempts, 5 interceptions. Lamar Jackson, 401 attempts, 6 interceptions. The current GOAT, Patrick Mahomes, 484 attempts, and he had 5 interceptions. Yeah. This guy is just – we go back to this. He's not throwing to these stud wide receivers. They're just going up and getting the ball and just preventing the interceptions. Adams missed. It was 5 or 6 games. I forget the number off the top of my head, but he missed a couple games last year, and he still only threw 4 interceptions, and he still managed to go 13-3. I think the Packers were the biggest fraud last year, but you know what? He brought him to the NFC Championship game. The accuracy for him is just you're talking about crazy. The guy just picks where he wants the ball to go.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have him at 5, so.
Oh, okay. Did you have him in your list?
Yeah.
Okay. Double checking.
I was going to say some things, but I want to hold it for when I talk about him. But just kind of move to my guy. This one, like I said, I think 7, 6, and 5 are in the same conversation. They all can be incredible best at their position when they want to be, but then have their moments of mediocrity. But I think last year he proved that he's a quarterback. He can get it done. And he can do what Michael Vick wasn't able to do. So number 5, I have Lamar Jackson.
5. Wow.
Interesting.
Look, I I think I'm not 100%
The guy
sold on
wins
him
an
yet.
MVP, and he's only 5th in his position for you.
Yeah, look, when he was in college, I was saying this guy he doesn't really have what you want in a quarterback. Sure, he's got a good arm, but his accuracy was really bad, and his decision making was not good. So when he was drafted, I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. I still don't think he's going to become starter level. I admit that I was
You've
completely
made a
incorrect.
lot of wrong, stupid
No,
statements.
shut
That's
up.
pretty impressive.
No, but I'm impressed that Lamar, was able to come this far. He was able to put it all together. He had 1,200 rushing yards. He's a quarterback. 3,100 passing yards and 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Dude's a baller. And if he can, I don't think he'll ever replicate that year just because of how ridiculous it was. But I think if he can come within 3,000 yards passing and 600, 700 rushing yards every year, I think he'll continue to be, a top 5 quarterback, continue to break Mike Vick's records and do what he wasn't able to do, which is consistently be deep in the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I become a fan of Lamar. I'll say that much.
Fan, you have him in 5.
I don't think he's a better quarterback than the 4 players I have ahead of him.
See, I think you have a prehistoric thinking of what quarterback is.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
No,
you're faulting the guy because he's not throwing the ball, but he still plays quarterback, and they went 14-2, and they were number 1 seed. I get the playoff concerns, but it doesn't factor. He's only a second-year quarterback.
The playoff concerns are definitely a concern. I mean, he back-to-back years, he's way underperforming the playoffs. But I'll say this much, that I'm not knocking him as a quarterback. I'm saying I think other quarterbacks have better vision, better accuracy than he does. He can get better, though. He can be as good as Mahomes or better if he wants to be. And if the Ravens continue to coach him up and surround him with talent. I'm just saying right now, even after that great year, I need to see it again, or at least something close to it to knock him up higher. But hey, if you're top 5, you're an elite quarterback. I'll say that much. So, but that's my T on Lamar.
All right,
we'll get to him.
You guys seem a little upset about this.
Oh, that's all right. Educated.
I think you could have made other arguments for him that I said in my head. What I was trying to figure out if I wanted to put him as high as I did, but none of those points make me feel like you should have put him at 5.
I think you're thinking prehistoric. You think only because he can't throw the ball, or he hasn't thrown the ball, or doesn't throw the ball like you've seen by other quarterbacks, that he isn't as good as the other ones. I
mean, he played he started half a season. His rookie year had 58% completion percentage, only 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Again, you're looking at, but you got to look at the whole package.
Here's my problem. We talk about this every video we do. I don't like one-hit wonders. I don't like looking at a player and saying, "Wow, that was a good point. You had one great year."
You don't like one-hit wonders, but you don't like one-hit wonders even if they've only had one opportunity to shine. Like his rookie year, he wasn't the starter to begin. He wasn't going to have a great year statistically, but the next year, his first full season, he won an MVP. How could you hate the guy?
Okay, but by that same standard, why isn't Cam Newton in your list? He won MVP.
Yeah, because Lamar Jackson has had one full season and he has won.
How many MVP years did Tom Brady win? And you had him at 10?
Tom Brady's completely different. He's much older.
Now you're going on awards and accolades.
Fair enough.
Ravens are also a pretty good team, so
they also don't have that many good receivers. I mean, in fairness to him.
I was going to get to that when I had him ranked higher, but hey,
his tight end had 10 touchdowns. Scott Hollywood Brown
that was a little bit of tea I was going to get to later too. I'm sorry for letting that one slip out.
Yeah, I was like,
don't tease the fans.
No, trust me, I know he loves to punish the one-hit wonders, even though they've only had one full season.
Yeah, but didn't you put Bo number 2 in defensive ends? I mean, the guy's been in the league for 2 years.
So
it's a different position.
Oh, okay.
Of course. Now we just change the rules and make them up as we go along.
Look, like I said, I didn't think Lamar was going to be at this level when he was drafted. He obviously proved everybody wrong. It's about him doing it again. Until I see him do it again, I'm going to have him at 5.
All right, fair enough. Listen,
Okay.
you've made a lot of
Okay.
ridiculous opinions. This isn't the most ridiculous. So
He's
No,
number
I mean,
5. How is that ridiculous?
you weren't really singing that tune about Wentz after his MVP season, but you seem to be really upset about the guy who did win the MVP only a second year. But whatever.
Yeah, one full season, he wins an MVP. One hit wonder. He's only had one chance.
I didn't say he was a one-hit wonder. I said I have 1 year of value. Like, I only have 1 year to evaluate him.
4 more quarterbacks other than Lamar that if I'm a defensive coordinator, that I'm spending that week going, man, how are we going to stop this guy? Like, he is just he's unbelievable.
But here's the thing. Like, eventually there will be times when look at what I think it was the rookie year he played where he took over for Flacco. The Chargers had, 7 cornerbacks on the field to defend Lamar, and it worked. But defenses will adapt. He'll have his struggles, but he'll obviously be outweighed by his strengths. I mean, the same thing happened to Wentz. Wentz was running all over defenses, and then they started to figure out how to kind of keep him at bay. But we'll see.
I think Lamar's going to be fine. I think what they showed you too when they played the Titans in the playoffs is, you get a team that can keep up with you. The problem is they love to run the ball, and they have a great secondary to keep you from putting up points very quickly. Because if you keep running the ball and you make Lamar throw, then the Ravens aren't going to be doing great. Yeah. But the way the defense is set up is they keep the teams from scoring a lot of points very quickly. The rest of
Tim, we both have him obviously coming up later.
I know. I see. You know what the problem is? I fall into this trap every time. He makes ridiculous opinions about this one-hit wonder nonsense, and then I fall into the trap. But I'll let it be.
I'm just a realistic person. What can I say?
We'll get there later.
All right, who's number 4, Nick? Let's go on.
So number 4, I think pretty much at this point, he's probably the biggest disappointment the San Diego Chargers have. They give up on him after the 05 season.
He scared me there.
Where are you going here?
The guy just manages to break every quarterback record there is: most career passing yards, most career passing touchdowns, most completions, highest career completions percentage, most 5,000-yard seasons. I mean, he's led the league in almost every passing category multiple times, wins a comeback player of the year, wins a man of the year, wins an MVP. The guy's just a winner. The dude has won every statistical award there is. He had a 74% completion percentage last year. And every defense knew who he was throwing the ball to.
That's true. They still couldn't stop him.
Do you understand how incredible that is? That what did Thomas have 144 catches last year?
148 or 9, yeah.
Or 89. And you knew he was getting the ball every time, and it didn't matter.
Mike Thomas on a slant, 3 people still couldn't cover.
That's what I mean. People shit on the guy because he only does in and outs. Like, everyone knows that, and they still can't stop it. Why are you killing the guy? He caught a ball in the NFL. That's incredibly difficult, whether it's 3 yards or 50 yards downfield.
Yeah.
No arguments here. I'm always with the guests. I have Breeze 4 too. So
now you guys are vibing. I see.
Because Breeze is, like Nick said. I don't have much more to put it after you said. My main thing is, because obviously I had one older legend much lower than Breeze and Brady, but Brady's going to a new system that I don't feel great about him in. Breeze is going back into the same system he's dominated in. Kamara, Thomas, they're getting another year better. I'm
just a little concerned, Nick, that you just listed how great Drew Brees is, but I haven't heard you say Lamar Jackson yet, which leads me to believe you think Lamar Jackson is better than Drew Brees.
I back that up. I couldn't agree more.
I can't.
I agree.
I expect Lamar Jackson had a better year than Drew Brees last year, and I expect him to have right around or just a better year than Drew Brees next year.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Mostly because, like you said, with who was he throwing to, I think the Ravens did a good job of getting him more weapons. I still think they're lacking some playmakers, but I can't kill them.
So, Tim, you said you had Brees at 4 too?
I did have Brees at 4, yeah.
Do you want to touch on anything before I say my 4?
No, that was it. Nick pretty much – it's Drew Brees. There's not much.
Fair enough. So my number 4 is someone I really don't know how I feel about him.
He's at number 4. What do you mean you don't know how you feel about him? Feel good about him.
Stats-wise, he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
But like you guys touched on before, I have Aaron Rodgers at 4, and I want to start off with a negative, which is weird to say for a number 4 ranked quarterback, but he's played in 181 games, and a lot of people look to Aaron Rodgers and they're like, oh yeah, he's he's that guy you want in the fourth quarter, which I don't disagree with. But he's had 16 comebacks and 23 game-winning drives in 181 games. Deshaun Watson in 3 years has had 8 comebacks, 10 game-winning drives. Pretty respectable. Carson's had 6 comebacks, 8 game-winning drives in 4 years. And the guy you just touched on, Drew Brees, in, almost 100 more games, but he's had 35 comebacks, 50 game-winning drives. And Mr. Matt Ryan, our PA representative, 30 comebacks, 38 game-winning drives in almost the same amount of games. I just think Rodgers has always been looked at as like, oh, he's, number 1 or 2 quarterback in the league every year. And I say that with him being at 4, but even still,
I was going to say, are you sure you have him at 4? You're like talking down on him more than anything else.
But see, that was
this is like taking a girl out. This is like taking a girl out to dinner and being like, "Wow, I didn't know you were going to order this much food."
Yeah, it's like, Dakota, how was that date? Oh, she was fucking fat as shit. She smelled awful, but you know what? Can't wait for that second date. I'm like, what?
That's actually exactly how I feel about Rodgers, because I don't know. I just feel like lately he's.
But you had him number 4 over the current MVP.
Because I look at what he can do. If I need to win a game, I want Aaron Rodgers. Like, if I am losing by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, I want Aaron Rodgers. Like, no matter what, and I know I just said all those game-winning drive things, and now I'm going to say that I want him as my game-winning drive quarterback.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's pretty contradictory.
I know.
I don't even have to argue you. You argue yourself.
64% completion percentage in the playoffs. He had 40 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, which is pretty nuts. But he's just like, to me, he's a very polarizing player.
Did you look at these stats beforehand? Because you seem to be surprising yourself when you say these numbers.
No, it's my thing with Aaron Rodgers, and my dogs agree with me, is that he's always been this guy who, was looked down upon, whatever, when he was drafted. Then I had to sit behind Favre. How loud are these dogs right now? Are they over echoing me?
A little bit. It sounds like the
they're not quiet.
One moment, please.
They're definitely not quiet.
To be fair, him spewing nonsense about whether he liked or didn't like Aaron Rodgers was, it hurt my ears more than the dogs banging each other in the background.
All right. Regardless, I couldn't put him lower because of what I know he's capable of, basically, is how I look at this. Because when you look throughout the years, whether it's, failing lately, which is probably why you guys had him a little lower, is lately he's been a little iffy. But then again, he hasn't had weapons, really. He's finally got a really good running back. They didn't want to draft a receiver for him for some reason. They wanted to draft his potential replacement. But yeah, a lot of what you guys said is kind of what I agree with. I think you guys have him at, 5?
Yeah.
I can agree with that. It's just, I think where they are in their careers right now, I think, and this is not to knock Lamar again, but if I had a game on the line, I'd rather have Rodgers than Lamar Jackson. So,
listen, I think you were harsher on Rodgers than me and Nick were, and you rated him better than both of us.
I know.
Fair enough. Into the top 3.
Into the top 3. So, yeah, I think we got 2 players that are the same, and I know who your other guy is, but I'm curious to see where he ranks. So go ahead, Nick.
So I'm not even going to build the suspense. So I have Lamar Jackson at number 3.
Good. I was gonna tell you you're on crack if you had him higher than someone
3
else.
in a row.
Yeah.
That's we got 5, 4, 3 right in a row. I had Lamar 3.
So I want to touch on some things that you're concerned about Lamar Jackson's passing ability.
Okay.
So I think it's important to think about a quarterback as development. How long has he been doing it? This kid didn't even play football as a sophomore in high school. Okay, yeah. He only played 2 years, and he played his junior and senior year. Goes to Louisville, freshman year, kind of rocky. He steals a Heisman from Deshaun Watson, 2016.
Fair.
Comes into the NFL, kind of plays in and out his first year, a little bit of a gadget guy, but also getting some time. His first year, unanimous MVP season. Now, the rushing numbers are going to jump out to you, 1,200 yards for a quarterback. That's unbelievable. But he also is the only quarterback – I'm sorry, there's 2 quarterbacks who've had 2 perfect passer rating games this season, him and Big Ben. Okay, so while these other quarterbacks you're talking about who we can't – you're worried about him as a passer, had 2 perfect passer rating games. You know what his passer rating was for all of last season? 113. Guy had 113 passer rating
36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and he also only played in 15 games. And let's just take a look at that receiving core. I mean, Hollywood Brown is your only.
I think they're better. I think they're better than you give
rookie.
them credit for. But yeah,
Oh, stop.
Who's better? Who's better than you're giving credit for? I'm giving Hollywood Brown a lot of credit. The guy's been in the league for 6 seconds.
he had a good rookie year.
Yeah.
Decent.
But that,
Yeah. Okay. Well, look at who everybody else has. Look, Drew Brees is throwing to Michael Thomas.
that's true.
Like, look
So-
at everybody else on the list who they have.
Defenses have to worry about Lamar running, so they're going to say, "Hey, Hollywood, go deep," and I'm going to just chuck it to you. That's all that was.
Yeah, but see, you're punishing him for that. He has the ability. You can't do that with every quarterback. Like, you can't build an offense where he's mobile and running all the time like that. It sets up his passing game, but he's literally a running back at quarterback. If
Look,
they
I
have
have-
a running back, he'd be top 10 running back.
Look, I have him at 5 because he's good. He's really good at being a quarterback. I'm not saying he's a running back. I'm not saying he's a receiver. He's a quarterback. But you can't sustain that for your entire career. There's no way he's going to be able to play like that his entire career.
Why not? They just
He's
went
going to
and got-
get tormented.
They got J.K. Dobbins. They'll run the triple option. Him, Ingram,
my God.
and Dobbins in the backfield. He does. See, the thing with Lamar Jackson is, like, you go into next year, he doesn't need to run for 1,200 yards again. It's the teams that they play are going to play defense like he is going to run for 1,200 yards. If he hands the ball off to Ingram or Dobbins, there's always going to be someone in Lamar Jackson's
Like
face.
I already said, if he plays like that again, I'll say him and Mahomes 1 and 2 unanimous. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying it was only 1 year. You got to look at how many quarterbacks have won MVP and had incredible years, and then they've never been able to keep up
How many
with that.
1 year 2 in their first full season? Dakota, give me that list.
I don't know. But it doesn't matter at what point they are. I'm just saying.
It does matter.
It does matter. You're punishing him for having one good year when he's only had 1 year as a starter.
I don't hate Lamar. I like Lamar a lot. And I think he's shown ridiculous growth in just 1 year. But I am not ready to say he is better than Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and my other 2 quarterbacks. That's all I'm saying.
All right,
Okay.
listen, I mean, you make these questionable calls. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Drew Brees.
Okay.
There you go.
And I feel like I really don't even need to say much about Mr. Brees because you guys already talked about him a lot and everyone knows about him. So, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only knock on Brees is that past few years, he just has not gotten it done in the playoffs. For whatever reason, the Saints, I mean, I think, Tim, we talked about this. I don't know if it was one of our videos, but the Saints come to the table every year with arguably the best roster, the best team, and the best odds to win the Super Bowl. And every year they somehow lose in the wild card or lose in the divisional round. And
Hey,
everyone's
listen, you
like,
need
oh,
some
what
luck.
happened?
You need some luck.
I don't-
You need
look.
things to fall on your side, and they have not had that
Look,
happen.
the whole bullshit with the Rams and that no call, yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
But
that's
if-
ridiculous.
But, like, there's no
I'll
guarantee
tell you right now,
you were
I
going to
think-
win
I
that
think
game.
I think the Saints would have won that Super Bowl easy. I think that was their year, that Super Bowl. The Patriots, the Rams should have never been there. They should have never been there. I never thought the Rams were ever this big.
Look where they are now. Can't afford
Exactly.
anybody. And
Listen,
they're gonna,
if D Ford could have stayed on sides or the refs called a pass interference, I don't see the Patriots winning that Super Bowl.
yeah, I don't know. I just, like, not to knock Breeze because I think he's phenomenal. He's a Hall of Famer. 35 comebacks, 50 game-winning drives. It's unreal.
He owns like every quarterback.
Yeah, I
career
was gonna say.
record.
Exactly. So, yeah, he's
Him and Brady
still
take turns.
balling. I think he'll probably play 2 more
I think-
years, maybe.
I think this is last year. I think this is their last year in the window.
Well, they brought him back on a 2-year, I think, right?
I don't know. There's always these void years and other
Yeah.
stuff they
Yeah.
do. With half.
Didn't
Like,
he agreed to like be an announcer with NBC Sports. He sees Tony Romo making $17 million a year
Yeah.
announcing games. He's like, what am I thinking?
You know, I think you guys touched on Breeze perfectly, though, so I don't have anything more to say about him.
Okay. So do we all have the same? Well, I'm assuming we all have the same top 2,
So,
then, right?
I mean,
yeah,
just say you're number 2, Nick, and then we'll see if it's unanimous.
it's my boy Russell.
Yeah, mine's
I
Russell,
also have
too.
Russell Wilson. Okay,
I
good.
was
We're
gonna
all.
say, I was waiting
I'm
for
glad we cannot argue anymore. We can have
Okay,
a
so
nice conversation.
so I want to bring out something that I did not realize that Russell Wilson had until I did research for this. So
Okay.
Russell has the most regular season wins by a quarterback in his first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 seasons.
Whew.
you. Yeah.
Now, a
I believe
couple
it.
of those are tied. You know, a couple of those are tied. First 5 seasons with Matt Ryan. You
Mm-hmm.
know, first 8 seasons with Tom Brady. But the dude, and he's never missed a start his whole career. Did you know that? Dude is.
I didn't. I actually. You know what's even more amazing, and not to steal your thunder, I'll let you have it back. Is we mentioned this with Carson Wentz and like a little bit with Matt Ryan. You're talking about a guy that's had no one around him. He's had a horrific offensive line majority of his career. He led the league in sacks last year. It was him and Matt Ryan tied for 44. And that's not the first time. The guy takes hits. Now, I think where I got on Watson about this for holding the ball and stuff, like Wilson just does stuff that I would tell him throw the ball away, and then he breaks 2 more passes.
And Tim, not to steal your thunder, but the dude has 101.2 career passer rating.
Oh, that was my next point. You know who's only behind?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers.
But 101.2, like with that shitty line, with mediocre wide receivers, with running backs revolving in and out the door, he's been able to do so much with so little. It blows my mind.
Do you know what impresses me too that you don't see very often? 2019, the guy gets the bag. Guy gets paid for a hot second. He's the highest paid player. And he's second team All-Pro only behind Lamar Jackson. How many times did dudes get paid and they just sit on the couch the whole season and they are just not impressive? And he throws one of the most amazing touchdowns I've ever seen to Tyler Lockett in the back corner of the end zone. Unbelievable.
That's the other thing. Like, he's never had a stud wide receiver. You can make your arguments about Baldwin and Tate and Lockett and all that. I like Lockett a lot.
I like Baldwin. Baldwin was a solid go-to guy.
Don't get me wrong. Like, you don't have to be a top tier elite wide receiver when you play Russell Wilson, because the thing is, you don't have to get open the first time. Russell Wilson's going to scramble around and eventually just keep running with me. I'll throw you the ball and you can get it. And he makes the players around him better.
He's pretty built too. Like, he's not easy to tackle either.
Oh, he gets hit. He takes a lot of hits. That's what I mean. He's not played behind this solid offensive line. He's had a revolving door in front of him most of his career. To lead the league, he just gets sacked all the time.
How tall is he? I forget. Is he 6 foot?
He's like 6 foot. He's the shortest quarterback I think to ever win a Super Bowl.
Though. Super stocky.
But think of how different we will be talking about him in the historic context. Just think about this. His rookie year, they go 11-5. You know, he has a pretty strong year. He's got a passer rating of 100. You know, it's a quality rookie year. His second year, they win the Super Bowl 13-3. He's got 101 passer rating. The third year in the league, he's one bad offensive coordinator away from a Super Bowl. Yeah. If you look at to start a career that way, I think about sometimes. I think Russell Wilson kind of snuck into the conversation over the past couple of years. We've been talking about Brady and Breeze and Rodgers, and Russell Wilson was just kind of silently putting together this unbelievable resume where now it's like it's just not even debatable anymore.
He's a player also that you look at his numbers and they'll never do him justice, because if you see how he gets his passing yards and his touchdowns, like the guy scrambles, breaks 3 tackles, and then throws the ball 40 yards downfield. A 40-yard completion is different with Russell Wilson. You see how much effort goes in. Like, he's constantly running for his life. He's been a running quarterback.
86, 41-1 in his career.
It's more than double.
Yeah, like it's just a testament to what he's able to do with, lack of weapons. So,
and I think too, you got to think about that record and think of the division he's been in that time.
They were bad when he came in the league, but the last few years they've been
strong. And he has a plus 500 postseason record. He's 9-6 in the postseason. And he's made it. And they made it 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, missed it 2017, and then 2018, 19. The guy's in the postseason like every year.
Yeah, I mean, like he's very quietly been arguably the best quarterback in the league, which is kind of crazy.
But I think he plays in a West Coast team. I mean, he plays in the Pacific Northwest, and while I think you got to think about, remember when Richard Sherman, the only reason we even respected him was because he was putting up all these numbers and they were getting no coverage. He had to go out and say these things, tweet these things, and come at people's necks because he wasn't getting the respect that he deserved. And that's just what silently Russell's been doing, is just putting up this unheralded career, And I think honestly, I always come back to intangibles with quarterbacks. And he could have folded within himself after that interception against the Patriots. I mean, he could have went, hey, I won a Super Bowl. It's my third year. We go to Super Bowl again. Everyone's blaming me. The team hates me. The city hates me. He could have packed up his bag, took his ball, and went home. And the guys just come out the next 6 years and been balling.
I'll say the last point on him is, like, he came in the league, and I think what hurt him is the first couple of years, it was the Legion of Boom, was the Seahawks. No one really thought much of Russell Wilson because it was the Legion of Boom. That defense was so awesome. Like, you almost punished Russell Wilson because his defense was so awesome. It was the only thing you talked about. But after they broke up the Legion of Boom, Sherman left, Browner left, Chancellor left, Thomas left, and all those pieces left. Wilson reinvented himself. He made himself better than what we saw before, and that was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Like, he's outgrown what they were before him. Like, he hasn't taken a step back. The whole, everyone thought that the Legion of Boom was what brought them to greatness, but you see, Wilson has just grown and excelled ever since they've all left. It's like now that the spotlight's on him, he just keeps getting better. He hasn't slipped. Yeah,
one thing I also like to do beyond looking at stats is kind of what the player means to their team and kind of who they are as a player and as a person. And Russell Wilson is probably one of the greatest people in the NFL you'll meet. I mean, he's a great leader. Even after when they beat the Eagles in the playoffs, the first thing Russell did was he ran over to Doug Peterson and said, how's Carson doing? Is he okay? So, I mean, he great player, great person, it's just all around package. And so, number one, I think we have a unanimous Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, is there a better way to start your career? I mean, he takes a year as a backup. He learns. He comes out his first full season, wins an MVP. His next, was about one penalty away from going to a Super Bowl that year. Next year,
he should have had that one. Yeah.
Next year goes and he wins the Super Bowl. I mean, and the guy's he's thrown balls that nobody else could throw from arm slots you've just never seen before.
Yeah, he's changing all the mechanics of NFL. I mean, you brought up a good point. Like, at this point, when we were talking, I mean, obviously I knew who Mahomes was going to be number one. But I was like, all right, what can I say to compare him? Like, you got to look at the greats. So I was looking at, like you said, greatest start to a career. There's 10 quarterbacks in NFL history, all Hall of Famers or on their way to be a Hall of Famer, that have won a league MVP, won a Super Bowl, and won a Super Bowl MVP. Patrick Mahomes obviously did it extremely fast in his third year, accomplished this. Surprisingly, he is not the quickest quarterback to do it. There's 10 quarterbacks in NFL history to have won a league MVP, Super Bowl, and Super Bowl MVP. Mahomes did it in 3 years. The first year, obviously, he didn't play. There's one quarterback that did it faster than Mahomes. He did it in 2 years in the league. I'll give you another hint. He did it all in the same year. Where Mahomes broke it up, he had all three of them in the same exact year.
Brady?
Nope. It took Tom Brady 8 years to do it.
I don't know.
Surprised me. Kurt Warner.
2000, his second year in the league, Greatest Show on Turf. He won the MVP, league, Super Bowl, and then Super Bowl MVP.
Damn.
I know. I was actually surprised. I was like, wow. He won a Super Bowl, then was stocking shelves, and then went back to another Super Bowl.
I don't know. I wasn't old enough at the time to appreciate what he was during that era.
Yeah, I only really watched during the Cardinals with him, but
there's you're talking about league MVP, Super Bowl win, and Super Bowl MVP. There's 10 quarterbacks in NFL history to do that.
So hey, here is a fantastic example of exactly what I'm talking about. Patrick Mahomes, 2018, had that insane year, right? Oh my God, MVP year. Then the next year had another great year, and now he's my number one quarterback. If Lamar Jackson does that,
hold on. Time out. If we did this list last year before this year just happened, Patrick Mahomes would have been my number one quarterback. Oh, one-hit wonder. We threw 50 touchdowns and won an MVP.
I'm not saying one-hit wonder. I'm saying 1 year to base your stats off of.
He only had 1 year.
I think if we had this conversation last year, I might have put Russell over him because of longevity, but I still would have put Pat Mahomes top 2. He wouldn't have been 5. He definitely wouldn't have been 5.
Oh, absolutely not 5. Yeah, that's just ludicrous. It's just, but the thing is, you're punishing the guy for having 1 year in the league.
Tim, you didn't put Odell Beckham Jr. top 10 wide receivers. I don't want to hear it from you.
I don't regret that. Yeah, but that's completely different. We're talking about a player that's regressing. We're talking about players that are on the rise, and you're just mad that they only did it once.
I'm not. He's at 5. That's good. I'm just saying, do it again.
Sneaky big move. I think if in 2 years, somebody who I think is going to enter this conversation is Kyler Murray. I think in 2 years, I think there's a chance he could enter. He's going to enter this conversation. Maybe in kind of that like Dak, Watson, Wentz range. Not top, but like sneaking in that back half.
Kyler and Josh Allen, I really like, and I
don't like Josh Allen at all. I think he's so inaccurate.
I like
I
Josh
mean,
Allen.
we were talking about Lamar Jackson not having weapons. Man, you need to get Josh Allen some weapons.
He got
Cole
weapons.
Beasley and John Brown are not.
John Brown
weapons.
had a good year.
Well, they got Diggs.
Yeah.
No, and that was probably my favorite move of the entire offseason is that they got him. They paid a pretty price for it, but they got the perfect wide receiver for him. I know. I agree on the love for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson. My thing is, it's not even that I don't believe in Kyler Murray. I need to see more from what Cliff Kingsbury wants to run. Because
I think
it's an offense that's super college, and I need to see it really. I haven't bought in on his offensive scheme yet.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, like he's not there. Like I think if you had asked me where he is right now, I'd probably have to say like 16 or some 15.
Well,
but
yeah, he's a rookie
I think, but I can see him going and getting D Hop. I think now you look at that offense. You got Hopkins, you got Fitz, you got Christian Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that and I see veterans and guys he can get around and guys he can throw the ball to, in like tight situations when he's, maybe would have that young panic, but he's like, oh, I got D Hopkins. Let me just throw him the ball. Like,
exactly. Listen, I think that helped Deshaun Watson a lot. Was just, because Kyler Murray, the Cardinals have a very porous offensive line. They've made improvements. They're not.
Yeah, it's gotten a little better.
Great, yeah, but I think the Texans made a lot more improvements from Watson's, first year with their offensive line, how bad it was. Than the Cardinals have. But you can't kill the Cardinals because they went and got DeAndre Hopkins. So, we'll see. They're still building it. I think he's going to be pretty solid. I worry more about the scheme around him. I want to see if Kingsbury can put him in the good spots and see if his offense is something that hits in the NFL. But they're putting around a dangerous offense. Getting DeAndre Hopkins will light some fires under any defense coordinator's nightmares.
So, out of curiosity – so let's say hypothetically, Kyler Murray or Tua, or even Burrow, for example, comes out this year in the rookie year has 5,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns.
Well,
5,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5,000.
So Joe Burrow's going to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns on the Bengals?
Just bear with me.
To who? To who's he throwing the ball to?
Bear with me.
Okay. Interesting.
But they either don't make the playoffs or they're a first-round exit.
If they throw 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, they better make the playoffs.
Let me finish.
Who's playing defense? Me and you?
It's the Bengals. What do you expect?
All right.
So if that happens and they have those ridiculous years, are you guys throwing them in top 3?
This is such a hypothetical because what kind of year did Mahomes and Wilson have? Like, did they have horrific years that I should take them out of the top 3? If I'm putting someone in the top 3, I got to take someone out.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If I have to take out Mahomes, Wilson, or Lamar, I mean, they're going to have to show me something that totally knocks them off.
Yeah, they would have to fall off a cliff. Like, I mean, Burrow could have 4,000 or 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. And, yeah, if for some reason Wilson just forgot how to play football or Lamar Jackson just can't stop fumbling the ball, then maybe.
Let me tell you right now, even if we do this right now, okay, I look at my top 3, Mahomes, Wilson, Lamar, okay, Wilson's not the youngest guy, I mean, but he's about 30 years old. Yeah. Mahomes is – I don't think Mahomes is getting knocked off the one slot. Then the two guys I had after Lamar are Breeze and Rodgers. I'm sorry, but, like, I'm not putting them in the top 3. And I don't see Dak, Watson, or Wentz hopping over Lamar Jackson. So I don't see a world where that top 3 gets moved next year.
Yeah.
No, I don't –
Unless they got hurt. That's the only thing that could keep them out of it. Because it's like if you want to put someone in the top 3, someone's got to come out.
Yeah.
I think it's Mahomes, and then it's Wilson. They're in 2 different classes. And then I think you can make an argument for a couple guys. But I think Deshaun, Dak, Carson, and Lamar are all in the same category of where they are right now.
What?
Yeah.
Deshaun, Dak, Carson, and Lamar Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that.
Did he do anything in the playoffs? Why is that not discussed? He didn't do anything in the playoffs.
You're talking about did he do anything in the playoffs? He went further in the playoffs than Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, and Carson Wentz. And every other quarterback in the NFL besides 3 other.
He had a bye.
Yeah, because he led his team 14-2.
He's 0-2 in the playoffs.
He did, Dakota?
Lost to Ryan Tannehill.
Do you know what he also did? Do you know what he also did? He played in all 8 quarters, unlike Wentz, who can't make it more than a quarter in a playoff game.
You can't.
Hey, that was unnecessary.
Look,
that was unnecessary.
I'm sorry. It's the reality.
You cannot correlate a concussion with having injury problems. You can't.
You've played football, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have you ever heard the saying, the best ability is availability?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't matter what you can do hypothetically. It's what can you do for me and when are you on the field? Because you have all these other guys who aren't getting hurt. Russell, as much times he's getting hit and running around at 6 foot nothing, you know what the guy does? Stays on the field. What do you do in college? Dakota? Did he not get 2 serious injuries in college? Is that not right before he came to the NFL? Is that not 4 injuries in 6 years? I don't know. I can't count or anything, but it sounds a lot to me like he's gotten hurt 4 of the last 6 years. Quarterback perspective, he dropped back to pass the ball and gave up on his receivers and his pocket faster than he needed to. And he didn't pull a Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson and try to buy time and look for someone down the field. He ran because he thinks he's faster than he is and took it and that's his big thing. The guy takes unnecessary hits. I think the guy he leaves the pocket more. He thinks he's faster than he is. He thinks he's not immobile, but he thinks he's more mobile than he is. And it's caused his other major injury, going to the end zone, the other injury, we're talking about the concussion, scrambling when he didn't need to. I just think that his head is that he's faster than he is, and he doesn't. Okay.
I don't know if it's that he's faster. He's always trying to make a play or always trying to do something better than he thinks he can do. I'll agree with that much. But look, he's had injuries, sure. I don't think you can say, every year Carson's going to get hurt. It's only a matter of time, because he played the full year and he wasn't hurt. He got concussed. I'm not going to hold that against him.
If you look at the torn ACL, that was a play I was mad at him for. He should have never been diving, extended full body across the goal line like that to get hit by 2 different guys. And then he got hurt from it.
We all hate to
show him on the Seahawks one because he was down. The play was pretty much over.
We all hate the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but it's argued that Carson Wentz could have led the Eagles to a victory over the Seahawks. We don't know what could have happened. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I try to take my bias out of it. And I try to take the other things about him because I want to root for the guy. Like, I live in Philly. I go to Eagles games every year. I'd love to see him be an MVP, lead him to another Super Bowl. There's just so many question marks I have about the guy. And I feel like I'm the harshest on him because I know what he can be, but I just don't see it consistently from him, and it bothers me.
I can't kill the guy on the Seahawks one. I know what you mean. He would run out of the pocket. I think he's gotten smarter with it. But I think that also kind of hurts his ability because I feel like he was a wild man that Super Bowl year where he was running around making plays. But, of course, he got hurt from it. But, get smarter with it.
I just think if you're the GM that just gave you 4 years, $100 million, and he drafts a quarterback in the second round, it tells you a lot about what they think about his durability. Let's just look at any other franchise quarterback. You're not taking a quarterback in the second round after you give a guy $100 million, unless you're concerned he's not going to stay healthy. So you can take it from that perspective, but let's read the room here. If the owners are saying, the GM saying, listen, we like this guy and you're our number one, but you've shown us we need somebody else too.
Oh, I think that's it's 2:30 over here in Britain land.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's all right. Well, but it was a good conversation because you gave me some good chuckles there. As you
we went from me and Tim agreeing 10-5 to me and Tim.
I knew something was wrong.
To me getting gangbanged by Tim and Nick 5-1. But
listen,
okay.
To be fair, I was surprised that the gangbang came later. I expected it consistently throughout.
Let me see what it was again. So you guys had the same from 5-1, and Tim and I had the same from, what was it 8 to 6 or 8 to
6.
5? Yeah, 6. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah, to be fair, my again, I said my 4 to 6 jumped around a lot. My 7 to 9, jumped around a lot, yeah. And I think maybe if we did this in 2 more days, I would have talked myself into switching it around, that order.
Probably, yeah. No, I agree there. Yeah.
I'll defend myself. I had Lamar at 8 in the beginning, and I pushed him way up. So.
Oh my god!
Sorry that a 63 quarterback rating in the playoffs doesn't do it for me. So.
Jeez, what about an MVP? That doesn't mean anything.
That's such a cherry pick stat.
Yeah.
So I put
more stock into his playoff quarterback rating than the fact that he won an MVP.
If you guys are gonna put stock into 1 year, I'm gonna put stock into one important game. It's the same. It's the same wavelength there.
A 1 year. A 1 year where they gave out this trophy that goes to the best player in football. It's called the MVP.
Yeah.
We've already said this. So many players have won MVP and ended up to be mediocre.
No.
afterwards,
You
so.
said that.
No. I
Did not agree to that.
Nobody. We didn't say that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You said that.
Whatever.
Oh, well. All right. Well,
it's all in love and fun. So
yeah, this is a good time. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I learned stuff about people that I did not know. I didn't know a lot of these guys had these records. Honestly, I was pretty impressed. I think that I also shout out of my top 10, 5 quarterbacks were black. And when I started watching football, I think that the only black quarterback I was even really a fan of would have been Vic, and that was kind of short-lived thanks to dog scandal. But
Vic and McNabb were when I was growing up. McNair.
I mean, my top 3 all black, and then Dak and Deshaun.
Yeah. Good point.
So it's
good to see.
I got to tell you, it's nice to see the transition. Being from the guys who just weren't quote unquote smart enough to be, and also too, did you guys see that Pat Mahomes didn't start reading defenses until like 4 years ago?
That's a testament to why he's so good.
And you talking about it, he's like, listen, you watch it film like I do. It was like you sit next to Scorsese watching, critiquing movies.
I mean, I don't want to keep dragging this on, but that's one thing that nobody touched on is the fact that he has Andy Reid, one of the best quarterback whisperers.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
I think that it definitely plays a role, but Mahomes just has natural talent. Like, it's almost unfair at how gifted he is.
I mean, he's throwing balls from arm slots that nobody else could do. And then if you look at the track team he has around him, it's just the weapons galore. And it's all he can do the screens, he can do the deep bombs, he can throw the slants, he has the seams. Travis Kelce, it just. And then they go and get the running back he wants from LSU. It just. The optionality of that offense, like they could put up 40 points a game this year and I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, he's confident in his abilities and he's having fun. So that will equate to, those kind of numbers, those kind of victories. So.
Oh, well, but this was good though. Cause I gotta say you weren't as ridiculous as I expected, even though with your Lamar nonsense. So I'll give you
I always have one player that gets a little.
I know. I was getting worried there.
Brady not in the top 10. I mean, that kind of.
Oh yeah. I thought, I honestly thought I was going to get ripped for putting him at 10. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be a stretch, but
look, I could take Stafford or Matt Ryan and flip them
off his name alone. No, Tom Brady gets in the top 10 off his name alone.
I don't like doing that.
But Stafford, you have Matt Stafford over Tom Brady. And we talked about Stafford having the most hollow stats and no Super Bowls and has not even sniffed
Has he been to the playoffs? Yeah, I don't think
I don't even think so. I don't even know.
No, I don't think he's ever won, but I think he's been once or twice.
And so where is your thing about doing it over and over again when you keep out the guy who's done it the most?
So it's about consistency and being at that level in the moment right now. Brady was consistent through his whole career, but he has declined significantly the past few years. Stafford's been up and down. I'll give you that. Okay, I'll give you that.
Tim, I have a question. Who won the Super Bowl in 2018, just 2 years ago? I'm pretty sure that was the quarterback that now plays for the Buccaneers, Tom Brady.
They had a fantastic defense. He had decent weapons around him. They had a good running game. They had Belichick is a huge factor in that team. You gotta look all around the team.
Listen, you're talking down Brady's Super Bowl win, but you are hyping up. If Matt Stafford finished the year, he would have averaged 5,000 yards. Blah 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 blah. The thing is, he didn't finish the year. He only played 8 games.
I just said, you could switch him out. I just think right now Stafford is a better quarterback than Brady, just based on what I saw last year from Brady and what I saw from Stafford.
Okay,
Dakota, I'm just going to leave you with this. Brady's played 20 seasons. He's been to 9 Super Bowls. Okay? He's been to 9 Super Bowls. And that's almost every other year.
I've already said he is the greatest quarterback to ever play. But 2 years.
He's not better than Matthew Stafford, apparently.
He's been mediocre at best.
He doesn't have better weapons than Matthew Stafford next year?
He does. I just don't. Okay. He's 11 or 12 for me.
All right.
Or you start saying some more nonsense.
Where's Big Ben? Since we're going to talk about great quarterbacks.
I I left him off the list because he was hurt last year.
Yeah, I mean, I had him on my initial list of people to look through, but then he was out last year, and then you have to also remember he lost his best receiver, Antonio Brown. I was like
the offense is completely different from the last time you've seen Ben Roethlisberger play. Considering he got hurt this whole year, his offense is completely
doesn't have Le'Veon Bell anymore. I mean, it's not, and he's coming off an injury. Like I can't put that even I couldn't even bump Matt Ryan out for him. I couldn't do that to Matt Ryan.
Yeah. I could probably, if I wanted to, could make an argument for Big Ben in the top 10. But him not playing last year, I took it as a cop out, and I was like, I didn't have Big Ben, and even I was like by name I considered him, and then I looked at he's been declining every year, and then like you said, he doesn't have Brown or Bell. So
Antonio Brown is the reason why his stats for the 6 years were even that solid, and then Le'Veon Bell, what he was doing out of the backfield, and then you get rid of those two, and he's coming off a year where he didn't play. I mean, I also think that Juju Smith-Schuster is a number 2 that they're trying to make a number 1, and I just don't see that offense.
I like Juju, but I don't think he's the go-to guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough arguing for one evening. We all have our opinions, so.
Yeah, fair enough. Some smarter than others, but
all
right. Well, this was a blast. Nice to meet you, Nick. Hope to see you on here again.
Tim. Nice to meet you. Hope England's treating you well.
It's going good. It's going good. But yeah, you're more than welcome to be a guest again. We always welcome guests. We only ask you for a subscribe and to bring your facts. You brought your facts, because otherwise, if it's just me, Gazelle, it's like I'm talking to either a mentally insane person or a wall. So.
Yeah. No.
I was excited to have Nick on. He kept texting me like leading up to it, like, "Oh, I keep learning all these new things. I have all these facts. I keep rearranging my receipt."
He's probably like, you know what? I'm chomping at the bit because you keep saying ridiculous things, and I want to address you. I'm getting tired.
I'm gonna be honest. I after I've watched the first 2, I asked Dakota if he was gonna do guest spots, and mostly because I want to poke holes in the fact that I've heard him talk about he likes guys who've been doing it the longest, but he has such young guys like Kittle and Bosa at the tops of his list.
Thank
you.
Yes.
So,
it changes. It changes by the position.
It's not even for the position. It changes for the argument.
Yeah, sometimes it just changes mid-sentence.
Or you have to put somebody at number 4 like Aaron Rodgers and talk about how much you don't like him.
Look, like I said, I thought
that was a peak. That was a peak, Dakota. That one impressed me. Good talks.
My daughter's sleeping upstairs. I should probably go.
I was going to say, she didn't wake up the whole time. It was surprising.
No, my wife's with her upstairs, so I should probably go upstairs.
Well, have a good night, guys. Take it easy.
All right.
All right,
See
boys.
you guys.
Peace out.